Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Getting Too Hired, the show that is helping you, the military member, successfully transition from your military career to your successful civilian one. My name is Tony Morrow, and today is the 25th of January, 2019, and it's our live stream sliders. Thank you for joining us today. I am eyes off camera, working away to try and organize all the things in the background here. I'm a one-man show, so thank you for your patience, and I think we are good to go. I gotta admit, I was struggling today with what to talk about. Of course, we can talk about the episode that came out on Wednesday, and more LinkedIn tips and tricks for you to be able to tweak your recommendations and endorsements, which was the subject of this week's video. But something came up this week that really shook me, I think is the best way to describe it. And let me go back. So earlier this week, I was asked to be a guest on a podcast called Hard to Kill. I will in my LinkedIn profile and in a post on YouTube, I will, once that episode becomes public and is published, I will send out the links to you all. But someone who you might think is related to me, Dave Morrow, same last name, no relation. Although strangely enough, we know all the same people in Montreal, in the neighborhood where we used to live, or where I used to live. It's his podcast, Hard to Kill, and he featured me on an interview on his podcast earlier this week. And we're talking about military experience and the struggle with transition and so on. And I was recounting or going back and telling a little bit of my story and kind of thinking back and remembering, the time, perhaps some difficult times for me when I was dealing with my injury and the beginnings of my transition and some of the stuff that went on there and so on. And I don't know how to describe it, but something about that, something about that definitely rattled me. Not in the sense that it rattled me in telling it, or that what I was saying about it was in any way kind of that I was uncertain about it, or that it was somehow untrue. I mean, everything I was sharing was not only what I believe, the facts of what happened, but the thing that was so difficult for me was I think just like reliving a lot of that kind of mentally as I was telling the story. And I found it, in the moment I was telling it during the interview, it was not difficult. In fact, I embrace it. I'm a big proponent of, if you are in the midst of going through military transition, whether you're about to begin it, you're in the process, or you're coming out on the other end, that it is a process that you need to actively engage, that you need to lean into. And that you can't sit back, hold back, try and back away from it, or in some way kind of hold on to your past life that you're now transitioning out of. I'm a full proponent of action and getting in there and getting things done and stirring the pot and bringing about action in your life for a positive effect. But in this podcast, in this interview, I was listening. I was telling about my story and in kind of listening to myself as I was saying it. After the interview, last night I noticed I wasn't focused. I wasn't happy. I wasn't settled. And today has been today after the interview has been such a turbulent day for me. Like, I just challenge getting focused, challenge kind of staying on point and really doing the things that I want to do. And I share that information, or I share that kind of experience, not to, not in any way for you to feel sorry, pitiful, or any kind of sympathy for me, but rather just to be able to share that if that's something you're dealing with, that's normal. Depending on your situation, whether it's the process of grieving the loss of your military career if you're in transition, or perhaps reliving a traumatic experience and remembering it as the kind of the crucible that led to the end of your military career through an operational stress injury or what have you, a physical injury, or perhaps there's components of your military life that either you hadn't necessarily thought about recently, or for whatever reason, when you think back to them, those moments, that they are jarring and that they are disturbing or that they are unsettling to you in some way. And if you feel that somehow, like for example, I was thinking this today: am I weak? Is there something wrong with me? Like, why am I going? Why am I letting this affect me? Nothing happened yesterday. I was telling, this is a story that I've told or thought about with regards to, the reasons for my my release, my medical release, the injury, the process, the transition, kind of the mental hurdles I went through to try and be okay with it, and so on. And that's a journey. That's a story that I've retold in many different ways and revisited. It's not new to me. There's no reason why I should necessarily have that affect me in a negative way. And yet, in spite of all that, here I am today. And I got to tell you, I was so on the fence about doing this live stream today. I was so on the fence because I was worried. Two things. I was worried that I would come to you now and tell you something that isn't supportive, that isn't helpful, that isn't contributing value to you as a military member in your transition, and that all I would do would be dump my garbage on you. And I don't want to do that. And that too, by doing that, or by kind of unloading bad stuff, that I would somehow tarnish, bruise, batter the relationship, the burgeoning relationship that we're developing here between us. And I don't want to do that either. The whole purpose of getting to Hired is to help you in your military transition, to help you be successful on the other end, that you have the necessary information for the preparation, the process, the journey, and the execution on the other end, that you are able to open that door, walk out, and be, a shining beacon of success on Civvy Street. And like I said, I was worried about coming on live streaming today, rather, and somehow in some way share with you something that would discourage you. And I don't want to do that. I'm hoping that what I'm sharing with you right now is that if you are going through some kind of mourning, regret, or even just a tough day, if you're having a tough day, you're either in release, you've been released and you're in transition, or you're kind of some point after that, and you kind of think back to your military career, your life, the transition, this major shift in your life, and you're having kind of a tough time focusing or wrestling with it mentally. That is not uncommon. It is absolutely okay. And it's quite fitting considering that next week, on January 30th, is Bell Let's Talk, which is all about mental health. And just happens to fall on Wednesday, which is the day that the episodes for this show come out. And so I think it is only appropriate that next Wednesday we have a good deep dive about mental health and so on. And I'll share maybe a little bit more of my story in a specific video about that. But just to share with you today, like I say, that I had this interview, and I spoke about my story, and in the retelling of that story, that it stirred something up for me, that it stirred the pot a bit and left me a little unsettled. And in those moments, in those kind of like, whether it's, in my case, like it's a combination of motivation and focus. I'm lacking motivation and focus today. And it's it's funny. I get angry with myself when this happens because, and I shouldn't, but I do get angry with myself and I get frustrated because it's like a distraction that gets in the way of the things I need to do. But it's all part of the process. It's all part of the healing. It's all part of the, coming to terms with your situation and how you can move forward. And I talked about, not to take anything away from the Heart Kill interview, but one thing I talked about were the 3 R's. The fact that you need to recognize or have the situational awareness of who you are, what's going on, whether on the macro or the micro in your situation, that you need to react or act to be able to take action, to affect change in a positive way. That sitting still and doing nothing will lead to no positive outcome, but rather you need to do something or consciously do something. Again, take action, put energy into that situation, that equation, and affect change. And then once that change, or once you've done that, that you reflect and critically analyze and assess what's going on, and then go back to recognize and your situational awareness of what's going on. So, it's kind of like SMASC format. What's the situation? I start to execute or act on my execution phase, and then afterwards I'm consolidating and doing a debrief on what just happened to me, and then go back into the situation and boom, 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 and redo that cycle. So I call it the 3 R's: recognize, react, act, react/act, and reflect. And so I'm kind of doing that today for myself because, like I say, I'm not focused today. I am struggling to stay on point, and essentially on this live stream, I'm kind of having an open thought process on what is going on. But it is something that I know that I am not the only one that deals with these kinds of hurdles and challenges. And it's not, and you don't have to be a veteran, a military member, or even dealing with some kind of significant change in your life to be having these kinds of moments. Everyone has them. What you do about it, what you do in the face of that situation is the thing. One thing about this community, the veteran community, military community, and if you don't recognize in yourselves, let me say this to you all, that you are all amazing in that your ability to operate in a high stress environment to a high degree of effectiveness without all the pertinent information is phenomenal. And not everybody can do that. And even if you are in some way compromised, I know I feel this way about myself sometimes, that I'm diminished because of some aspect of, in my case, injury that is reduced what I perceive to be my full capacity or capability. Know that your 100%, that your 110%, that maximum effort that you're putting in is far above and beyond what others may be able to do in that situation. Your idle, your 60% is another person's 80%. Your applying 80% but not maxing out is somebody else's 100%. Your ability to get things done is a proven commodity. As a military member, successfully, progress throughout your career, you've had that military life. The fact that you've gone through all the trials and tribulations, and I mean, something as simple as basic training, you laugh. I know I laugh when I look back on it. Basic training is exactly that. It's basic, especially in the face of like other things that you may have done. A selection course, in my case, I did a selection, successfully passed that selection. Selections are tough. A lot of the career progression as a Mars officer, naval warfare officer, recognized often that is a difficult trade overall. There are many other trades in the military that are like that. And that the culture, the professional environment in the specific trade that you were in perhaps was extremely demanding. And not everybody can do that. I can look back to basic training, and perhaps you can too, and you can think that there were individuals in your basic training that were not successful, that didn't complete it, that weren't able to, in the end, perhaps become a member of the military because they were unable to complete basic training. Generally speaking, most people can, but not everybody can. And then depending on what level or what trade you were in and the progression, I know the success rate for different trades can be highly variable. And for the naval warfare officer trade, going from basic training all the way to being a fully qualified officer in the fleet is the percentage of successful candidates is surprisingly low. I don't know what the data is right now, but at the time I was going through passing even just phase 4 training and getting into the fleet, there was like an 80% failure rate. And that's phenomenal. And I'm sure depending on what your occupation was, I mean, whether you're artillery, infantry, pilot, air tech, engineer, whatever you may be, human int, logistics, whatever it is, though not all of these trades obviously have the same physical demands, but there's academic requirements you have to go through, and not everybody can get there. The fact that you're able to do all those things in a military environment, in an operational environment, in the field deployed, that is something to recognize as a point of excellence in yourself. So I would argue that you need to take a moment to appreciate that. And reflecting back on if you're having a bad day, and you're kind of having to, idle down at 60, again, your 60% is somebody else's 80. And you give yourself the permission to have one of those days, to roll with it, to be able to work with it and move forward. That being said, it's not necessarily easy. And I know, like I said earlier, I get angry with myself when these kinds of things happen. I get frustrated because it feels like it's an impediment blocking the thing that you want to do. And even when it comes to your motivation, perhaps the challenge you're dealing with on that day is your mental health, your ability to stay motivated, stay positive, and perhaps you're finding yourself going down the spiral of negative thoughts. From my own experience, again, this strange anger is the thing that comes to mind. It is the thing that applies energy to the situation for me that motivates and propels me out of those negative thoughts or mindsets. It's not necessarily a healthy thing, and I'm sure many health professionals will encourage you to come up with positive psychology behaviors and patterns and habits to be able to encourage you to use those habits, those behaviors to prop up, to propel, to encourage a healthy, positive, and active mindset. Anger is not the way to do that. But historically, for me, that has been something that's kicked in that really kind of gets me out of there. And I know that adopting more positive mindsets, more positive behaviors and habits is part of my routine to be able to help me get away from that as much as possible. And, making sure you go to the gym every day and maintaining a good fitness regime and, eating healthy, although I will admit today was not a healthy eating day. And so on. Like those types of things, they help support a positive mindset, your ability to go out there and do things and get stuff done. Yeah. So here I am going off on this rant, and I feel like we've been talking a while, although for some reason, normally I have a counter in the corner here that tells me how long I've been on stream. Judging by the clock, we've been streaming for about 20 minutes. And sorry, I'm just realizing that normally when I stream these things, I record the stream and then I can re-edit it later. I'm noticing now that I'm not recording the stream. That's why I don't have the counter on. So that's fine. So 20 minutes in here, and just I'll end off this part of it with just saying that challenging day today, all as a result of stirring up kind of the story and the history of what led me to leave the military, and that if you were experiencing something similar at any point in your life, whether it's at the beginning, the middle, the end, so to speak, of the transition process, if you're mourning the the loss of your military career in some way, shape, or form, or reminiscing on it, and that's okay. It's not. It's a normal it's a normal thought process. It's normal to look back on the things that once were, but it's really important that while you recognize and are aware of what's happening, that you act and take action to move yourself forward and realize that that's who you were, that's not who you are. And while, for example, in my case, the military will always be a part of my life, and I will always have a very strong military streak in my persona and the way I conduct myself professionally and so on, I am no longer a naval warfare officer. I'm now a civilian, a veteran, on the other side of that. And moving forward, I can certainly look back with fondness and remember the great things that I did, the fun that I had, and perhaps the moments when things didn't work out so well. But going forward, keeping a positive mindset about the potential, the accomplishments, the things that you are doing today in your life, and the way you're going forward, focusing on that and making sure that that is a positive experience, positive effect, and putting positive energy into that, is really the recipe for success. I don't know that it's related, but I was looking through the LinkedIn feed today, and there's a person I'm connected with, Bruno, who had posted a motivational video from, I'm trying to remember his name, and I'm sorry, I'm going to look it up here as I'm talking. Jacko Wilnick, I think I'm getting that wrong, but and I'm just sorry. I'm trying to look it up as I'm talking here, and it was a motivational video. Here it is. So Jacko, it's going to try and start to play. So Jacko motivational, quote unquote, good, from the Jacko podcast, and it was talking about good, and I watched it briefly, and it was an interesting story about basically part of the troop came forward and was saying, this bad thing happened, this not so great thing happened, blah blah blah, and the IC would always say to him, good, and the reason why they say that, or and you can watch the motivational video for yourself, but the reason why the good response to all these potentially negative things happening is, like, for example, I'm having a bad day. Good. It gives me a chance to, exercise and dig in and try and build those positive mindset habits that I need to do to stay positive, to stay in a positive mindset. Did I eat poorly today? Good. It reminds me that I need to be eating well. And that I got that out of my system so that tomorrow or that later today, I'm going to reinvigorate my, double down on my good diet and make sure that I'm going to the gym and training extra hard and getting the, the physical response that I'm looking for. There was kind of like a quick little spiel he does there about, didn't get the promotion, good, more time to get better. Didn't get deployed, good, allows us to train more for the next one. Did I get hurt? Good, it gives me more time to heal up and get ready to be stronger for the next mission. Things like that. And I was reflecting on my situation again. Just keep thinking about my story, and while I might look back on the fact or mourn the loss of my military career, I'm going to look at this scenario and say, good. This is a chance for me to be able to produce this show, create this content so that I can help you, that I can put a positive spin on things out there, that I can provide some value to the veteran community, and that hopefully what I'm saying helps you in some way, shape, or form. Good. So I don't know if it was, serendipitous, moment of fate that I happened just to come across that in my feed on today of all days, but I thought it was interesting. So we're 25 minutes in here. I am noting that while I do have the vMix Social, so the software that I use is vMix. vMix on the left here with all my panels and so on. vMix Social on a screen just behind the camera right there. And allows me to be able to see any chit-chat, any chat comments in the live stream. Because I'm not recording this live, because I am not recording this, I will not be able to repost this later. It'll stay up on YouTube for a little bit, but unfortunately it won't be able to stay up there for too long. So I'm going to take this moment to step back and maybe make another little recording a little bit later. But yes, if you're catching this on the replay, which you must be, thank you very much for watching. Getting to Hired next week is the Bell Let's Talk Mental Health Day on January 30th. That is Wednesday of next week. And I'll be releasing a video talking about mental health, specifically talking about my journey, my experience in that, the process, the things that I've done, and so on. And whereas a lot of the content on this channel has been very much tutorial and kind of this live stream format, I'm going to try and make a good solid film for you. I mean, 5 minutes. I don't want to make it too long, but I'm going to make a good solid film for you in that kind of vlogging style format for next Wednesday, and hopefully that'll be something that you enjoy. Please let me know in the comments if that's something you're looking forward to, or if that's something you'd like to see. And yeah, and in the meantime, hope that you got a chance to look at the LinkedIn series that we've done, LinkedIn Basics Parts 1, 2, and 3. If you haven't had a chance to look at that, go check on the channel. You've got the playlist for LinkedIn. Just move your way through the playlist there, and you'll be able to see all 3 videos. I'll be coming out with an advanced series later talking about the different ways to curate, create, and generate content on LinkedIn that be able to get you the results and get you closer towards the goals that you're looking for in your kind of LinkedIn experience, whether it's be looking for a job or networking or just building your professional network. So thank you very much for joining us here on the live stream and or on the replay, I should say. And thank you very much. I will catch you next Wednesday for that video on January 30th. Bye for now.